I did want to check this out before we started. It's not a long video, I promise, but it was about the ZG stuff and
Did
all
you
these
know that?
new open world updates that have been coming in. I want to see what Doran has some shit on the new open world stuff that's going on, and I wanted to check it out. Not open world, I mean old world revamps, because I love this stuff and it's been coming in hot and fast. Let's see what that is. Well, you know, some people have bad years, and Blizz employees had a bad year with Shadowlands. Yeah, yeah, they certainly did.
Did you know that South Shore has been under a rebuilding process and has probably been rebuilt by this point in time and should look completely different if it was actually updated in the game? There have been a lot of significant updates to the entirety of the Eastern Kingdoms, in fact more so than any other continent, yet barely any of them are actually present in the game. In fact, many other zones are still stuck in Cataclysm. We know there are significant updates to Stromgarde as a city, and realistically it should be an actual Alliance city now, a playable one. We know about the cleansing of the Plaguelands, what has been going on with the Scarlet Crusade. We know Scholomance is active. There have been some
Scarlet
changes.
Crusade got that new armor set, but I'm just hoping we get Mythic plus Scarlet Monastery. That's all I'm asking. Just give me Mythic plus Scarlet Monastery. Give me some Blades of Light, please. I want it. Up-res Blades of Light. Wonderful.
To quote the last, Gilneas, and a bunch of other places. We have a ton of info from the official Blizzard book, but we also know there was a
Mythic plus
5-year
Magister's
time
Terrace?
skip
Yeah,
since
hell
that
yeah.
book, so we have even more hints from quest lines and all sorts of storylines. So what is going on with Eastern Kingdoms and what would they look like today? Let's get into
Let's
it
make a
because
bet.
there's
Is it
just
Ridge Wallet
so
today?
much stuff to cover.
Is it Ridge
Before we
Wallet?
get into it, I want to show you guys Bloodline Heroes of Olympus.
no.
This video is sponsored that you can get with my link or the
It's not a
QR
Ridge
code
Wallet
on the
ad
screen,
today.
and you can also get an amazing start of the pack right off the bat. The game has visually stunning 3D graphics, a new bloodline every fortnight, meaning that you can not only summon
Is that
champions,
Illidan?
but you
What
can
the
also
hell?
breed them with a ton
Red
of unique
Illidan?
designs and abilities. There are 1,000+ hybrids with most unique gacha
Worgens?
gameplay, and the customization options are endless as the hybrids can inherit traits. Once you're in the game, there is also rewarding late game PvP.
Wait a minute, you
as
get
all
these things
players
to
can
fuck
obtain
each other, then
uniquely
you make
designed
new
hybrid
monsters?
champions by earning points in the seasonal guild wars. You can raise heirs, build your own kingdom and economy, all with beautiful scenery and immersive storylines.
What are we doing this morning?
It's never been a better time to start to download
Heroic
the game with my
Razageth
link
to
or the
start.
QR code on the screen and get a $20 worth starter
That's right.
pack. 1 summoning crystal, 100k gold, and 100 diamonds. First 3 people who
Get
leave
some
their
AOTC.
account ID and username in the comments will get a free legendary female champion Lionstone, one of the best tanks in the game. So check out Bloodline Heroes of Olympus.
There it is. Not Ridge Wallet. Check out Bloodline.
So, realistically, there is actually an absolute insane amount of changes, and once you get through this video, you'll realize just how stuck in time we really are within the actual game in the Eastern Kingdoms. There are a lot of hints from the actual book, Exploring Azeroth, Eastern Kingdoms, where we actually received information that has been officially updated, but we also have info from recent news, hints, questlines, like Blizzard posts and whatnot that confirm a lot of other stuff. Let's get through all the zones individually from north to south on the map, although I will skip a few as in regards to some not really all that much happens, so that is really not worth mentioning. Keep in mind, generally those threats that you know that are gone are now without a doubt not that big of an issue in any zone despite not being updated in the game, so
There's so many storylines that are just left hanging right now.
some minor threats are really no longer a big deal. What is really important to note is that 5 years had passed since the start of Shadowlands and 3 years since the end of Shadowlands, and that in itself should have gotten us a ton.
Finally, that little anus in the sky is closed. Never again to be reopened. I never want to see the anus in the sky open ever again, please. Bye-bye, Shadowlands.
In itself should have gotten us a ton of new changes that hasn't actually been confirmed in any way by Blizzard. The book
Who got
was
the helm?
released
Ryko.
2.5 years ago, so
Ryko
count
got
that
the helm.
nearly
I
5
shipped
years
it out
have
to him on
passed since
Friday.
then, which means that even those changes that were officially confirmed definitely progressed further or changed even more. However, let's get into zone-by-zone information, dissecting everything, starting with
check it out.
Quel'Thalas. In regards to Quel'Thalas, we don't have a whole lot of
The greatest unused asset in the game, Silvermoon. I love Silvermoon. You can't even fly in it. That's how old it is. This zone never even got updated for flying. It's so old, and yet still so beautiful.
official info, but we definitely have some. However, you can count that it has significantly changed. Realistically, Silver Moon and the entire Blood Elven zone is stuck in like 2007, and seeing that 15 years have passed even more, you can count that a lot of things changed during that time. Silver Moon should really be completely different. All those broken parts should be fixed. While there is still that dead scar, and it was recently confirmed to be pretty dangerous still, it shouldn't be nearly as dangerous or desolate as it used to be, or as it currently is in the game. Furthermore, in Shadowlands, there was a Scourge incursion into Quel'Thalas, which prompted a pretty significant Elven response, which means their forces have been culled even further and should really be close to non-existent without a Lich King or any other significant figure. I think it would be pretty easy to pick off all these Scourge targets. Then, during the timeskip, we've had the marriage of Lor'themar, although that shouldn't really change anything zone related. However, the Amani that used to be the main race in this area thousands of years ago should really be close to non-existent at this point.
Should be almost extinct.
Capital was stormed over a decade ago, and they were weak even before that. Seeing that they pulled a lot of their remaining forces into even more disastrous endeavors time and time again, it
would be a big undertaking to remake Silvermoon Day. You're totally right. It would have to be like an expansion feature. Like, for some reason, Silvermoon would have to become a hub city or something. That's the only way I see them remaking Silvermoon. And maybe with cross-faction now, you know, completely enabled in every thread of this game once guilds come into. And there are, you know, with the Void Elves and the Blood Elves. Right? Void Elves are Alliance, Blood Elves are Horde, and technically they both call Silvermoon home. So maybe it could be a bi-factional hub city for an expansion. That would be the only way I see them ever going back and actually redoing it, because it would take a shit ton of work, and they're not just going to do it just for no players to go see it or actually be part of that content.
It hasn't been going good for them. I'm certain Amani remains somewhere, but they're definitely not as organized or any type of major threat, probably just scattered all over the place. Now, as we go further down, things get a lot more interesting. We have the famous Plaguelands. This place has been in a state of renewal since Wrath of the Lich King and the defeat of Arthas, and a lot of progress has actually been made. I mean, some has been updated in Cataclysm, much of the Scourge has been destroyed, and realistically, with the timeskip, huge parts of this zone should have been fixed. However, let's not kid ourselves, this is not going back to being Lord Doron once again. It was confirmed that Skullman's remains active and is still incredibly dangerous.
I wish they'd rebuilt Northrend.
Areas such as Stratholme have not been cleansed, but apparently some people actually live in Stratholme, even though it is hell on earth. Scarlet Crusade was said
by
to
the way, Stratholme
destroyed and their
definitely should have been purged.
Out. However, there have been recent hints with the pamphlets, the armor,
definitely should have been purged.
Alliance, which prompted a really
I don't know if you guys saw this. So I said this weekend. A lot of people liked it too. Blizzard tweeted out, "What is the WoW opinion that everyone can agree on?" And I tweeted back, I said, Arthas Menethil was right about Stratholme. That's right. The entire city should have been purged. Anyone who disagrees is just a weak little bitch. Anyone who disagrees is a weak little bitch. He knew what he had to do. And had he done it, he could have saved a lot of lives. Done it correctly, at least, and finished out the purge. That's the truth. Stratholme needed to be purged, and only one man knew that, and that was Arthas.
Of them actually rejoining the faction and abandoning their futile crusade, maybe even becoming an allied race in the near future. I have an entire video on this possibility that you can check out. However, I do think Plaguelands are on their way to return to the former green lands of Lordaeron, but definitely will never be the same. I mean, some things can just not ever be fixed. As we go further south or west, we have possibly the most interesting area, and that is the Tirisfal Glades. In regards to this, as you already know, a lot of the changes you probably played through, so you're aware of them. Undercity was cleansed at the end of Shadowlands, but with a 3-year timeskip, I would honestly expect the city to look completely different and updated. First, a lot of those scorched and destroyed towns and areas from BFA should look a lot better now, but definitely not.
Well, did you guys see they updated the Undead banner? It doesn't include like the Sylvanas face mask anymore. So that they did that at least.
Same before the war. If the next expansion centers around this, we could find ourselves looking at an updated Undercity. So areas
I think Undercity and Gilneas will get some attention.
Sylvanas Plague research stuff
at some
should
point.
Be gone, as well as some other Sylvanas related things. Now, right next to this storyline, we have Gilneas, which is obviously closely tied. Still stuck
That's why I
in
think
the
they'll get attention together.
everlasting time loop. However, as you may know, a lot of the storyline has changed. There are very heavy hints it will be restored and returned to the Alliance as Kelly and Manatee vowed to pull out the Forsaken troops and to allow the Gilneans to return. Furthermore, Blizzard in a blue post sort of mentioned we could
I think
see
when Gilneas or Undercity/Lordaeron get their updates, it's going to be together because the two storylines fit together. Like they just said, Kalia's pulling out the undead. They're going to return to Lordaeron. Those two things are going to happen simultaneously.
Gilneas restoration questline happening, which means a lot of political and in-game changes are bound to happen with the actual return
Gilneas
of the
is a cool looking
Gilneans,
city
the
that
Worgen, back to
has
their
never
own
been really
homeland.
used.
Now, interestingly enough, right next to this, we have Tolbarad and the Baladin Hold. Both are still under Kirin jurisdiction, but they're very troublesome. There are constant
I don't
prison
think we're gonna
breaks,
see
they're
updates to
losing
this.
controls of the prisons, they're losing commanders frequently, so while kinda under control, it is definitely a pretty volatile place. Interestingly enough, though, changes have actually happened to Silverpine and Hillsbrad, some pretty significant ones as well. So both of these areas, especially Silverpine, saw a lot of activity during the big conflict, and actually it should have calmed down quite a bit at this point, especially since it has been 5 years. We know that the Bloodfang Worgen are now officially allies of the Alliance, and they have taken control over both the Shadowfang Keep and the Fenris Isle. As you may know, Shadowfang Keep was used as a biolab by the Forsaken. In terms of Hillsbrad Foothills, things have definitely calmed down quite a bit as well, but we know that South Shore was officially reclaimed by the Alliance. At the
That's
moment,
right.
or 5 years ago, it was said to have been cleaned up and it was in the rebuilding process. With the time skip, this should have drastically changed.
South
and
Shore is
we
still
could
just
be
stuck in a
seeing
rebuild?
significantly updated Alliance South Shore in the very near future.
Those
I mean,
old
seeing
models.
that this is not a big city or any sort of a big place, I think a few years is definitely enough as long as they figure out how to remove the corruption. Now, even more Alliance activity and significant changes happened in the Arathi Highlands that are really worth mentioning.
That's
As you're
right.
definitely aware, there was a huge
The update for Battlefronts.
war effort back in BFA,
Remember
and we know
Battlefronts?
that officially the Horde had lost this war. It was said that Horde ghosts haunt the ruins of Argorok, angry after their defeat. However, the biggest news is that Alliance won this battle and Stromgarde was officially rebuilt. This means that there is significantly more Alliance
wonder if
presence in
they'll
this
actually
zone.
use
Keep
this
in mind,
city,
this
'cause it is
information
fully
came
redone.
from the book. Since then, as I said many times, 5 years have passed, so I would expect at this point in time, Stromgarde would essentially be a very important Alliance city, a hub. Maybe not the size of Gilneas, but definitely pretty close to it. Right next, we have the wetlands, where not all that much actually happened, at least that we
Man,
know
the
of. And I'm guessing a
wetlands.
lot of the flooding issues from Cataclysm may have been fixed, at least to an extent, especially
said
with
it
the
about.
Manatee Hub.
I feel like I haven't been there in a
However,
while.
In regards to Twilight Highlands, we know that demons invaded during Legion and had scattered the Wildhammer dwarves that were there in pretty large numbers. Overall, though, the place should be
Wildhammer dwarves. That probably won't get an update unless we get a Wildhammer dwarf allied race, but that'll probably never happen because didn't they give tattoos to like the regular dwarves? So now you can technically make one that looks like a Wildhammer dwarf, kind of like the High Elf thing where they gave blue eyes. So now you can technically make one even though they're not an allied race. So maybe, I don't know when we'll see an update to
less
that.
presence of those crazy threats, although definitely not a safe area. We know that during BFA, Twilight Dragon eggs were discovered in the thousands, stone trogs dug deep into Grim Atoll, and there was some chaos there, but that should have been fixed by this point. Now, in regards to Dunmorrogue, nothing official was announced, no major changes
I feel like
were
we'll
announced.
never get
We know
the
there was a Legion
Sandland
invasion and,
because of the
just
Dark Elf
regular
customization.
dwarf stuff. However,
Yeah, I
since
think
the
that one's
invasion of
gone,
Gnomeregan happened so
too.
long
I don't
ago,
think
and there
that'll
was a
happen.
bit of activity in BFA. What is currently in the game is definitely not what is
What
currently
about leper
relevant. With
gnomes?
the time skip and all the changes,
want
Gnomeregan
those.
should realistically be mostly cleansed and inhabitable, but unfortunately at the moment it is still stuck in Cataclysm and the never-ending
Same as Silvermoon. I feel like Gnomeregan is even worse though, because Gnomeregan's not even really a city. It's just like a weird instance zone or something. But I don't see them ever reworking Gnomeregan unless we get an expansion-specific reason to do it, where it becomes like a underground hub city or something.
Gnome campaign. Blackrock Mountain, on the other hand, is more relevant than ever with the Dragon Isles, although not that much
Blackrock
actually
Mountain.
happened with the zone. We know
No
that the
one
Black
likes
Dragon fight
gnomes.
is nearly extinct and not dangerous.
If they
as
did
you'll
make
know,
leper gnomes,
with the
it'd be very
recent
underplayed
Dragon
for sure.
Isles storyline, the orcs are really not that big of a threat, if any. Not much happened with the Shadowforge city, but it was confirmed in the book that Shadowforge city is actually
Blackrock Mountain, I remember being like one of the coolest in vanilla WoW. It was one of the coolest, like dangerous zones to go to in the game. I used to think Blackrock Mountain was amazing, especially as a fan of Lord of the Rings. It just reminded me of that, the whole thing of Mordor and everything. It just looked so cool. Had that cool
big
Mordor
as
aesthetic.
Ironforge lore-wise. Now, in the southern part, we do have some pretty interesting and new information. With Elven Forest, not all that much, except I'm guessing some natural changes to Stormwind, as it is after all the capital, and Turelian might have made some structural changes as he ruled for over 5 years.
I don't know what's going to happen with Turelian.
Attacked
I think he's going to lose his
Shadowlands,
shit.
and that Blackrock incursion should really be gone by this point. However, right on the border, things have been happening. Westfall is said to still be yellow, brown, and just overall miserable. That Raging Chasm is still a thing, however, the place is no longer overran by the Defiance Brotherhood, as they have been mostly cleared out.
It was so fun wiping in Blackwing Lair with 40 people.
The Gnolls are actually still a threat in Westfall, but much less organized without Hogger. We also know that Sentinel Hill is being
Hogger's dead in the
rebuilt,
lore.
probably has been rebuilt by this point. Now, in regards to Duskwood, after the Fourth War, there was this necromancer that attempted to overwhelm the place with his undead army, but
What? I
he
didn't
was
know that.
defeated, and there was also a Scourge attack in Shadowlands, although other than this, there really hasn't been all that much activity. Now, with Deadwind Pass, it is still pretty dead up to this day.
Deadwind
There were
Pass.
some changes to Karazhan. It is said that the Curator, the Maiden of Virtue, Nightbane are still here, but there hasn't been any significant things happening around here. It is still pretty haunted and a pretty grim
Yeah, I don't
place.
see that
Now,
updating
with the
Deadwing
Blasted
Pass.
Lands, a lot of it is still stuck in time. It has been calm for a while, definitely still quite a mess. I'm guessing it will never return to being normal at any point in time, but it is definitely not as chaotic. It is closely monitored, but
For once, it'd be nice to see a villain come out of the Alliance.
Through the portal here, where
I think
there's
if we
a
do,
hotspot that we really need to worry about, unless there is maybe a light or
it'll
like
be
a
soon.
wood invasion. Then there is Stranglethorn, one of the most dangerous places in all of Azeroth, and wild as you can guess, it is still pretty dangerous up to this day. Stranglethorn was significantly
Tyrellian's such a radical, and with Void shit coming, I think it'll be him if there is going to be a villain coming out. Some people think it could be Tyrande because of her anger, but I think she's kind of calmed down a bit. She PMS'd for a little while, now she's back. She's good. She's going to plant the tree. Everything will be fine.
Change in Cataclysm and should be similar to this day. The only major change that should have happened is that trolls should barely be a threat anymore, and we shouldn't really have to worry about them. Regardless though, this is the wilderness and nonetheless naturally just dangerous. So overall, there have been some pretty big changes to the Eastern Kingdoms. There have been some hints and potentially something going on in the northern part with Gilneas and the Scarlet Crusade. So if that happens, we could get Stromgarde, updated Waterloss, updated Gilneas and Undercity, and a whole bunch of other related things. All the lore is currently set up for this, so it is only a matter of time before Blizzard decides to update this in the actual game. Alongside this, they could also do one-off updates to zones like Gnomeregan, which really is just begging for a revamp. Thank you for watching. Check out the updates to come by clicking on the screen, and check out Doron's Academy for videos on real-world history. See you
Slightly
next
less
time.
speculative than past Doran videos, so not bad.